Hey everybody, vloggity vlog movie time. I just realized it's been quite a while since I've really done anything. I am still working on a video. Script's just taking a while. Just lack of motivation, tired, and various other problems. But let's talk about The Last Jedi. My sister and I went and saw it last night at the movie theater. She really loved it. I liked it. I do have some problems with it. Now, just for upfront honesty here, I don't hate it, I don't dislike it, or anything like that. I wasn't disappointed by it either. I did enjoy it. I do have some problems with it in terms of plot and, just certain things that happen in it. So, if you haven't seen it yet, turn this video off, because there are going to be spoilers. I avoided spoilers for quite a while before seeing this movie, because I'd already ruined The Force Awakens for myself by watching, one person's review, and in the first minute they spoil a big plot point. So, let's talk about a few things. The first thing in the film that really did bother me was, after the Resistance is being stalked and tracked by the First Order, Kylo Ren's ship goes in and, he's just attacking all the ships and attacks Leia's. And the main cockpit area gets blown out and everybody gets sucked out into space, including Leia. And they basically show her just out there in space, floating and seeming to be freezing over. But then she's shown to apparently still be alive, and she uses the Force in order to pull herself into one of the other ships and save her life at the last minute. I mean, at least they say that afterward that she was apparently severely injured because of it, and she's thrown into a medical thing to be taken care of. But, yeah, I can't help but feel that, that whole scene just felt incredibly silly to me. I feel like that either they just shouldn't have attempted killing her, or they just should have committed to killing her. It does, I'm sure, certainly make me wonder what they're going to do with her character now, since the actress Carrie Fisher did pass away sometime after they finished filming. So, I'm wondering what they're going to do with that. A few other things. One plot point that kind of felt unnecessary, the whole code breaker thing where, and I forget the name of, Maz, that's it. The Maz character tells Poe and Finn about how there's this code breaker that she knows might not, be the guy that they ultimately find that she was talking about, who can help them because they want to break the First Order's tracking ability, because they can track them through light speed. So they're kind of screwed, where even if they go to light speed, they just show up a few seconds later, and at this point they're just making them just waste fuel. And the First Order is slowly taking out every single one of their ships. So to the point of near the end of the film, there's only one ship left. They took out their medical cruiser, and they took out basically everything else. And they've lost all their fighters, and they have no real means of defense other than their shields. And they're trying to make it to another base. And somebody else has been put in charge, but more on that later. So, Finn and I forget the name of the engineer character that he meets, who, they become friends. And they go off to go and find this codebreaker, which ultimately kind of amounts to nothing, where instead they meet this other guy in the prison cell who is a very talented thief and pickpocket who is just magically able to get himself out of his cell and find another ship and helps them escape. and he's going to help them, get on board the lead ship of the First Order to find where their tracking system is and take it out. Now, and they point out in the film that they can only take this out for a few seconds, but it should be enough time so that the First Order wouldn't be able to track them. But when they ultimately do it, they get caught, and then it's revealed that the thief betrayed them, sold them out, and even tells them about the Resistance plan, which I'm not sure how he found out about that, but more on that later. That just ultimately felt pointless because not only do they not pull off, destroying or stopping the tracking system, but they get caught, and the thief, turns out to betray them. That was where that whole thing just kind of felt meaningless to me. Because the film does a lot of jumping around at certain points, like you're jumping around back to Luke and Rey and her training and her trying to get him to help, back to the Resistance, and then back to Finn, and also back to Poe, and just various other things. So let's talk about another thing that I kind of had a problem with was, and I'm not very good about remembering new characters' names, so I apologize. This other character who is put in charge of the Resistance, who apparently was a good friend of Leia's, she just kind of has, she gives this speech about how, we must believe in the light and try to do our best, da-da-da-da. And then, but she doesn't bother to reveal what their plan is. Basically just, has them, let's just stay our course and just keep moving. And this ultimately annoys Poe, so much so to the point where he gets, a few crew members to mutiny against her because he finds out that she was fueling the mini shuttles so that when the main ship runs out of fuel, they'll just use the shuttles. But they'll kind of be screwed because the shuttles have no defense. And, and this pisses him off because it just feels like that, that they're just running away and that there's no real plan. It's, and it just feels kind of stupid, which is ultimately how it feels even to the audience. But then it's revealed that, the shuttles, they have cloaking systems, so the First Order wouldn't be able to track them, and then they'll use the main ship, as a distraction so everybody else can get away and make it onto the planet, which is pretty nearby and which is heavily fortified. Well, my big problem with that is that why didn't she tell Poe about that? Why didn't she tell him that we have this plan and this is why we're doing this, but everything's going to be okay? If she had told him that, he wouldn't have mutinied against her. And the audience wouldn't feel like that she was a bad leader, that she didn't know what she was doing, and that she was a coward. Because ultimately, at the end, it turns out she's not a coward. She did have this plan that was okayed by Leia, and which was something that they were ultimately going to do. And she even sacrifices herself because somebody has to pilot the main ship, so she was going to stay behind. She even sacrifices herself because at one point when the First Order finds out about the Rebel shuttles being cloaked, they start firing on them, and she turns the ship around and goes into light speed against the First Order, which we've never seen before. It was actually pretty cool, where she just blasts on through their main ship and manages to destroy a bunch of their other ships, probably also severely killing her in the process. Yeah, that was pretty cool, but what was still so annoying was, why didn't she communicate this with Poe? Now, the only way that I could, and what I figured maybe why they didn't feel like sharing this information was because, maybe the ultimate reason, and I think this was before they reveal this, tracking system, because this is what I was thinking it was going to go, was that they knew that somebody in the Resistance was a spy and was reporting all their movements to the First Order. that in my head was the only real reason why they didn't want to share this information with anybody, because they were afraid of the First Order finding out and screwing them. Of course, they do ultimately find out. But it would have stopped the whole mutiny thing and certainly put Poe's mind at ease to know that it's okay, we have a plan. But they didn't do that, so it just kind of felt like weird writing. Like, we have to do this just for the sake of doing this to add tension. And yeah, that just felt kind of weak to me. Overall, everything else about the film, you know, still has everything I enjoyed from The Force Awakens. You know, you got great characters, you got pretty good character writing, you have some pretty dramatic moments, and you also have some really funny moments, too. You know, they're just between the characters. It was nice. Actually, it was really cool getting to see the Red Guard in action. I was also very surprised by how quickly they kill off Snoke, but this is also in their way of making Kylo Ren the main enemy. You know, the big bad of the series, which is understandable. Another thing I had a problem with, and this is near the end of the film, when Luke comes back, decides to go to the Rebel base and visits Leia, and ultimately decides to confront Kylo Ren. And Kylo has, you know, all their tanks and everything just rapid fire on Luke, but it has no effect. So he decides to duel him, and everybody realizes that Luke is doing this in order to buy them time, because there's no other escape when they're in the base, other than, you know, this big giant metal door that the First Order blows down with this giant blaster. Or this giant, you know, cannon. But they find, you know, this back way out. That's a weird little cave thing. But ultimately, it's revealed near the end of the duel between Kylo and Luke, that Luke isn't really there. That he is projecting himself there. And kind of my problem with that, and I know this is going to sound nitpicky, is that when Luke, you know, first shows up, you know, and sits down and talks with Leia, he takes her hand and everything, and, you know, and I, you know, couldn't help but wonder that, like, after it's revealed that he's not really there, is that how could he have touched her if he isn't really there, if he's just this astral projection? But whatever. He serves his purpose, finds peace within himself, and then passes away the same way that Obi-Wan and Yoda did, where they just fade. It did upset my sister because she did figure that they're gonna kill off Luke. Which I kind of figured was going to happen. I mean, I would have preferred that he had actually gone to the planet himself, you know, and talked to Leia and confronted Ben, you know, and still, you know, been passively fighting him, you know, just stalling. But that ultimately, you know, when he died, that he did still die the way he dies in the film, where Kylo goes to strike him down and he fades. But I suppose they might have thought, like, oh, that's too much copying of Obi-Wan. But I mean, it's okay for what it is, but it is still, you know, just making me just think too much about then how and why could they have done all this if he was just projecting. But was there anything else? The jumping around, the Leia thing, Luke's projection. The killing off of Snoke, I don't have a surprise with, or a problem with. I mean, you know, that was pretty good. I liked the revelation with Rey, where apparently her parents were just junkies who sold her for money. In that she came from nothing, but she was actually very special. I liked Kylo's and Luke's reason, because Kylo felt ultimately betrayed by Luke, because Luke sensed great darkness and evil within him, and went to confront him, was thinking about killing him, and then had this moment of doubt where he really wondered if he should have done this, but it was already too late, because when Kylo, is laying there at first sleeping, and he wakes up and sees Luke standing over him with his lightsaber drawn and ready, he panics and goes to defend himself, and, that's ultimately when Kylo turns. And, I thought that was good. Overall, I will say I don't like it as much as I like The Force Awakens. It is still a good film. It does try to do a lot of its own thing, for once, instead of kind of retreading old territory. But I don't love it as much as I did the last film. Well, anyway, that's all for that one. I'm going to try and work some more on my Silent Hill Shattered Memories script. I don't know when I'll have it finished. I don't know when I'll actually start shooting or editing it, because it's going to be a pain. It's turning into a really big script, but I will try, because I want to do it, and there are various other many different things that I want to do. I just have to actually sit my ass down and do it. Anyway, I hope that you guys all had a great Christmas, and you have a good rest of your year, and hope you enjoyed. In fact, please let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves.